Hi, my friends. Perspective here. I wanted to bring us up to speed to where we're currently at. Within the last few weeks, we've been exploring the wounded themes of consciousness and how we transition into the healing themes. And in the most recent episode, I explored the mapping across the wounded themes and the healing themes so that we have a more tangible resource moving forward in our journey. So, for every wounded theme, we have multiple healing themes that are mapped to that. And what this exploration did was help us zoom into the third step in the three-step practice of the inner work. So, the third step says release and replace. Release tells us about the specific goal, which is to heal, and the replace tells us about how we can access this release. And we have wounded themes of consciousness aspect as well as healing themes of consciousness aspect that are associated with release and replace. Back to the recap. In the previous episode, we had spoken about inadequacy and violation. Inadequacy being that perpetual need, ensuring that we have certain desires that are being met up until we feel equipped for unexpected changes that life brings to us. And so with inadequacy, we heal through self motivation and acceptance. Acceptance encapsulating self motivation. Acceptance being that we are enough, we accept the limits of being human. So then, when we know we're enough inherently, and not just by affirming it, ensuring that our actions match up to that, we would no longer feel that need to keep desiring things up until we feel worthy to show up in life. Inadequacy also underscores addiction to external things outside of ourselves. When we accept that we are limited as human beings, we're able to accept our limitations alongside our worthiness in spite of those limitations so that we do not think that there's something outside to fill our cup to give us the fulfillment that we need. Greatness is within me. That is what self motivation says. Inadequacy is saying I want, I need, but now violation no longer wants or needs. Violation demands. Violation is aggressive, it is forceful, it is angry for its expectations to be met. And so we're enforcing control within ourselves, we're enforcing control with the people around us. To heal violation, we have understanding, acceptance, and ease. And we started talking about understanding for every suffering or pain that life brings to us. It really is an opportunity to expand and being able to gather knowledge, information from life, from our experiences, helps us to truly see what exactly is going on within our lives and find solutions to those problems. As we find solutions to those problems, we get to relieve the suffering, we get to understand ourselves more, and we get to experience our own sovereignty. And so when we say knowledge is power, this is what we mean. If you feel like you need more details or some of the things I'm saying are going over your head, I would highly recommend that you go back to the previous episodes and just look through them. The description really does help because I give a lot of the details on what the specific episode speaks on, so then you could just navigate accordingly. But yeah, let's get into it.
So, for understanding, what it's working on is seeking knowledge to find solution for suffering. So, the idea is that you want to understand what is going on, you want to understand the other person's POV without bias, truly see the other point of view. But yet again, at the end of the day, it's like understanding is still subjective. So, I think it's important that we hone in on acceptance, just to accept what is and accept that we the other person has their own limitations just as much as we have our own limitations. And yes, we want something, and yes, at this point we're being more vocal about the things we want. Yes, at this point we're being more passionate about the things we want. But yet again, w- anything changing on the external is not gonna, truly fill our cup. It's not going to leave us fulfilled. And if we keep holding on to and expecting things to change on the external before we feel content, before we feel worthy in ourselves, then we're just playing the long game, right? So once we accept things for what they are, we accept that, okay, this is how the situation is, then we surrender the expectations that we have. We let those expectations go, and we're able to truly enjoy whatever it is. Yes, it may not be enjoyable, but we get to see the sides that we might be overlooking just because we're expecting things to go a certain way. And sometimes even our own understanding is skewed, even our own perception of what we want is skewed. Maybe we expect something now, but remember, if we're coming from a place of rejection and that wounding theme underscoring it all, then our perception of the things that we want, do we genuinely want those things, right? Or do we want them because we feel like they're a means to an end, a means to giving us fulfillment? So in reality, we may not really want those things. We want those things because we're still looking through the wounded lens. So yet again, expectations wounding is an opportunity for us to expand, is an opportunity for us to learn and evolve, right? And yes, there are lessons to be learned, just like I spoke about in the previous episode. And we have the opportunity to learn these lessons. You can expect change or want change, be angry for positive change. And if it doesn't happen on an external level, then that's okay. You don't let that, deter the course of your life or determine how you then feel about it. Because this is how I used to operate, and sometimes I still do that if I'm being honest, right? That happened to me recently too. Something happened a certain way, and I was just like, yeah, yeah, like why I was so mad, like why would you do it this way? Why are you not saying it this way? But I had to take a step back and ask myself, okay, what exactly about this am I, like, why am I even feeling this way? And is there a need to feel this way? Because if I feel whole and I feel worthy in myself, then I don't expect somebody to do something to now validate my own worthiness. No, if the person does the thing in the way that I expect it, that would mean that I'm controlling the person's actions. And do I need to control somebody's actions for me to feel better about myself? Do I need to control somebody's actions for me to feel worthy as I am? Right? So when I started asking myself these questions and really digging deep to the underlying core of these things, you start seeing how you don't even need that. You can just accept it and like just be worthy for your, feel the worthiness, and that you're enough for your own self. Yes, and we also have our own limits. We think, oh, that's what we want in a certain way. But if things are not going in the way that we want them, I think that's also an invitation for us to look deeper. Like, why do we even want these things, right? Again, sometimes it's because we want to feel the worthiness that comes from knowing that we can control something out of ourselves. In a way, it gives us that sense of security that, oh, we are controlling life. But at the end of the day, we realize that life is beyond our control, and there's no need to control something if we feel whole. There's no need for something to change externally. And once we start embracing acceptance for ourselves and acceptance of others, we're able to truly accept what is, and we're able to truly, respect other people's decision just as much as we want things to go our own way. Why don't you respect that the other person also want things to go their own way? Why do you have to control the other person's actions because you want things to go a certain way? Like, it goes both ways. It goes both ways. Just as much as they want it to go their way, you want it to go your way too. And at the end of the day, you realize that we're all living our own versions of life. So why impose on somebody else's version of life? Why impose on somebody else's life? As much as you're in an interaction with that person, that is still their own life. And respect it, honor it. And that's where, again, unconditional love comes in at the end of the day. And we'll discuss that. So finally, we have insecurity. And from violation, it transitions into insecurity because, again, we have, experienced this intense need and expecting something. And at this point, we no longer expect. We're like, okay, you know what? If you decide that you're not gonna do things the way that I want them to be done, and I'm mad that you're not doing it the way I want them to be done, and you're still bent on not doing it the way that I want you to do them, then I'm gonna show you that I can get things done for my own self. So I love insecurity, right? Because when you look at insecurity from a positive perspective, it tells you that you can take action, especially in the overcompensating, because the avoidance side of insecurity is usually lazy, right? So there's that. But when it's the overcompensating side, you are taking action, but you're being competitive. So you're taking action with regards to what this other person is doing, or to prove something to this other person. And when you see insecurity as a means to an end of making yourself feel like, oh, you've proven yourself, of accumulating admiration for yourself, like people admire you because of what you can do, and you're basing your worth based off of that external, in a sense, validation, external admiration that you get to make you feel worthy, to make you feel whole. When you're outsourcing that, then it's coming from a place of weakness. That is not true strength. That is not true personal power. True personal power is not looking for what someone else has to say, or because you need to feel the need to prove something to someone. Remember, this all of this is still centering the external, is still centering you needing to prove yourself. And you don't need to prove yourself. If you believe that you are enough, if you believe that you are worthy, then there's no need to prove yourself. The only person you should be in competition with is yourself. You're not in competition with any other person. Like, realistically speaking, you're not in competition with any other person, because at the end of the day, we're on our own journey. And as much as we are encountering this with other people, you're again only doing a disservice to yourself to keep outsourcing your power based off of what other people have to say and how they perceive you. And there's no, in my opinion, there is no sense of authenticity when you keep showing up to prove something. Again, you're centering these other people. So how do you show up authentically? Right? It feels like a performance because you have to keep proving yourself and proving yourself, and you're constantly performing and performing. And you know whoever is you're in competition with, you are centering that person, you're centering however that person has made you feel. But true power is bringing it back home and saying, okay, I'm in competition with my own self. I accept that I am enough. I don't have to fight it out. I don't have to toggle it out. I don't have to gain admiration from anyone to feel worthy, to feel enough. I am enough. So that is acceptance. And then you also are able to accept your own limits, because that in itself is questionable, right? For you to feel the need to compete with someone, it means that there is a deep vulnerability there. So you're able to accept that you have your own shortcomings and you're ready to face it and take accountability. And in that regard, you can direct all that energy that you're using to be in competition with somebody else to actually look at yourself and see yourself and see your shortcomings, and be in competition, healthy competition with yourself. So, yeah, at this point, you are ready to move forward and actually take accountability and direct all of that energy that you have been using to, and just pour it back in. Pour it back in from a place of worthiness, from a place of acceptance, from knowing that you are enough. And because you are enough, you would not feel that need to struggle. It would flow easily. Your accountability would be more focused towards you and how you can improve as a person. And remember, at the end of the day, our spot in the bigger picture is unique to us. So if you keep, feeling insecure in a sense of maybe competition or admiration from other people, it really does underscore inauthenticity. You're not going to be your unique person. You're not going to be your unique self. You're going to be performing based on people's expectations or people's admiration. And competition with somebody else is really centering that person and their own vision, needs, whatever. Like, you need to bring that power back home and focus on you and be accountable for you. A good summary of wounding themes mapped or connected to the different healing themes so that you have it handy. Right. Again, this is just a support system of some sort. I would recommend that you read the book for your own self, but you have these videos to just guide you here and there, give you support if you need.
Till next time, live your best life. Live your best life.